Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland Reviewer, and welcome to the Wasteland. And this is my weekly show where I take a deep dive into a particular film and throw in a couple other segments just to chat about other kinds of movies, including those coming out soon, and answering some questions, and also starting up trying to highlight something that I've watched recently. And we're starting things off for this special episode, which will be our last episode, talking about the Coen brothers, because we're finally at the Ballad of Buster Scruggs, but before we get there, it's time to talk about the coming attractions. So for the week of Friday, June 11th, we're getting In the Heights, and I'm very excited for this film, created by Lin-Manuel Miranda, who did this musical and created this along with Hamilton. And after seeing Hamilton on Disney Plus, I'm very excited about the work that Lin-Manuel Miranda has done, and I'm excited to see this. The trailer really sold me. The energy, the personality, the liveliness. I just am ready to hear all the music, experience all the characters, and from director John M. Chu, who did Crazy Rich Asians. There's a vibrance here, there's a personality, and I'm excited to take it all in. And this great cast of Anthony Ramos, Corey Hawkins, Stephanie Beatriz, Lin-Manuel Miranda himself, love me some Jimmy Smits, and just a whole bunch of other talented people thrown into this big, extravagant, and fun musical. I'm really looking forward to checking this out, and it was a no-brainer for me for next week. Sorry, Peter Rabbit. But In the Heights is definitely what I'm looking forward to most. And not gonna lie, I'm probably going to be watching on HBO Max. But this definitely seems like a movie that would be awesome to watch on the big screen as well. So if you get a chance, go do that. Take advantage of it. But that's the coming attraction for June 11th. Definitely an easy choice for me out of everything that's coming out that Friday. Because if you take a look at what else is coming out, like I mentioned, we have Peter Rabbit, which I'm going to watch it. I thought the first one was fine. I'm just not a huge James Corden fan, and it gets quite annoying. We also have Awake and Infinity, other streaming films that are going to be coming out on Netflix and Paramount Plus, and a lot of smaller things. So definitely In the Heights was the big one to look out for. So make sure to go check it out. But now shifting gears into our last Coen Brothers film, I won't spend a whole lot of time talking about the Coens or Carter Burwell, who scores great in this. Bruno, who did the cinematography for Inside Llewyn Davis, returns for this one. No more Deakins, so I don't have an excuse to gush over Deakins. But this is a beautiful film. And this is a Netflix original that was supposed to be a television series, but they just turned it into this 2-hour, 15-minute or so anthology series. So in this film, with 6 distinct stories, thematically rich in ideas of the Old West, and really focusing on all these different kinds of stories. And I'm going to go beat by beat. And we start off with the titular Ballad of Buster Scruggs. Tim Blake Nelson is so great, so talented, so much fun. I love him as Delmar in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? And he is so great here as Buster Scruggs. He has personality. He has charm. He's need to take a wash. And he's a little cocky. Definitely a little cocky. And he has fun. This one has that shocking, awkward Coen Brothers violence about it. And you really get that here. But you also get some great musical numbers, which, come on. When a cowboy trades his spurs for wings, and the wonderful, because Buster Scruggs is showing off, and you know what? The theme of this is there's always some tougher, stronger son of a bitch around the corner just waiting to knock you off your perch. That's exactly what happens here. And the kid takes down Buster Scruggs, and they sing a duet, which is such a lovely and fun and beautiful little folk song. And that's the wonderful thing. There's so much folk music, old-timey kind of music that's threaded throughout this anthology. And it's interesting how they find themselves into each of these stories. And Buster Scruggs is probably the most fun out of all 6 of these. Then we have Near Algodones, which is probably my least favorite one. James Franco's in this one, and like, I don't think James Franco gets anything particularly interesting or different to do, but he sure makes a great meme. So this is your first time. Because this man tries to rob a bank, gets caught, is going to hang with a posse. Strange occurrence of Native Americans showing up. He gets away and wrongly accused for something else that he did. That he didn't do. And then winds up being hanged for that. It all comes back for you, right? The highlight here is Stephen Root, who is this really hilarious guy who runs this bank, and he's been robbed before, and he comes barreling out at James Franco covered in pots and pans, screaming, "Pan shot! Pan shot!" And it's so ridiculous and funny. Like, this one definitely is the least interesting to me, at least. And it's short, it's fine. I think it might be the shortest one out of all of them, too, which I'll certainly take that. And then we have Meal Ticket, which has Liam Neeson and Harry Melling. And Liam Neeson plays this impresario who is an Irish immigrant who has this, what would have been called a basket case, somebody, Harry Melling's character, who has no arms, no legs. And he puts on a show where he reads Ozymandias and the biblical story of Cain and Abel and Sonnet 29 and the Gettysburg Address and the Tempest. And things start to dwindle. This is very much a commentary on capitalism, using this man with disabilities for Liam Neeson's own selfish profit. And when things are going wrong, he winds up buying a chicken that could do some tricks. And it doesn't wind up going so well for Harry Melling. Another little thing in this one, Liam Neeson does a real fine job, and he has a little folk song number that he starts singing, this Irish traditional that I recognize because the Dubliners do a cover of it. And Harry Melling, though, is the real star in this one. He has a lot of potential, and you really see that here. And I really liked what he did in this scene, this sequence, and he's definitely popping up in a lot of things, whether it's the Queen's Gambit or the Old Guard, and he's doing pretty well for himself. And good for him. Then we have All Gold Canyon, which honestly is my favorite, which is a very quiet and focused one. It's the most beautifully shot one, with all this luscious beauty of nature. And everything's thriving, and then Tom Waits' character shows up singing along to some folk music, because of course, and Tom Waits, a singer himself, really captures that, and all the animals run away and don't return until all the humans have gone, but he starts digging, trying to find some gold, puts in all this work, and then some little shit comes up and bushwhacks him and shoots him from behind to take his gold, but he won't go down that easy. And this story of like this cautionary tale of all the hard work you do and watching your back in case somebody shows up. And also subtle nods to what humanity does to nature and how nature responds and how nature can thrive again. Just look at what happened with COVID. We're all in quarantine and all the animals took over the world again. It's so interesting. This one is so beautifully shot. It's intimate. Tom Waits is great. I really appreciate that particular story. And then we have The Gal Who Got Rattled, which honestly could have been stretched out and just made into its own film. This is definitely by far the longest. Zoe Kazan and her brother in the story go on a wagon train, and she starts falling for Billy Knapp, one of the guys helping out Mr. Arthur, who runs this train. And it's a very intimate and sweet story. And you have this dog, President Pierce, named after Franklin Pierce. And it's a nice love story between Kazan's character and Billy Knapp. And it leads to a pretty engrossing, intense action sequence at the end of this particular one. This definitely has the most going on out of all of them. And also has a tragic end. I'm not going to spoil that one. You should check this one out. But it's a really tough, so much of this is about the futility of human existence and how fragile life is. and how things go, and which is why, honestly, it's perfect that it wraps up with the mortal remains as we're in this carriage of 5 people, an Englishman, an Irishman, a Frenchman, a lady, and a fur trapper, which is also, he is the pitcher, like older veteran pitcher from Major Leagues. He's great. Brendan Gleeson is in it, and he sings a little Irish tune, and this one is so great because you start to question, is this just like a ride they're going on? Or is something deeper going on? Is this the carriage of death? And it makes you really think about that. And not gonna lie, after watching this a second time, I'm feeling a little more sure that this might not be some mortal ride going on. It might be something past due, and definitely with the dialogue and how sharp the Coen Brothers dialogue is so sharp and great in this film and all these different stories. It's wonderful. Here, it lends itself so well to the mystery being built up here, and you know, you have to watch it and interpret it yourself. But I'm leaning towards like those 3 people: the Frenchman, the woman, and the trapper just might be in the hands of God's workers, which is Thigpen and Clarence, the Englishman and Irishman. And they definitely allude to there might be something more to what they're doing there. And it's an interesting way to wrap things up. And this life and the mortality of life is such a great thread through all of these, and why thematically this works so well together. And I like this movie more the second time around, and I feel like the themes of mortality and fragility of life really digs deep and through all of these, which the second time around watching this, I felt like I understood why they went together more than just a bunch of thrown together Western stories just to make a feature-length film. I definitely understand how they come together, and I really appreciate that at this point, and I really love Ballad of Buster Scruggs. I feel like it's much more of that thematic Barton Fink, serious man inside Llewyn Davis kind of experience of a Coen Brothers film, all set in the West. And it has some big thinkers and some fun times and some stories to really connect to. So I check it out. Go check out Ballad of Buster Scruggs on Netflix. My friend Matt, you all know Matt, been watching, listening to the podcast or seen him on some of my episodes of some of my shows. He hates Ballad of Buster Scruggs. I do not. I'm getting really close to deeply loving this film, especially after the second time watching it. But those are my thoughts on the film. Obviously, you go check out Netflix and let me know what you think about it. And that's the end of the Coens. Next week, I'm going to be starting Stanley Kubrick, as voted by a bunch of people on my Instagram, which thank all of you for joining in. Really surprised John Carpenter and Mel Brooks made it to the final 6. That really made me happy. And then the final 3 was Kubrick, Nolan, Tarantino, which did not shock me at all. But we have Kubrick coming. Fears and Desires will be the first one, his first feature-length film. I'm excited to watch it and talk about it with all of you next week. But before we wrap up, we have our other segment, Q&A. And one of them in honor of Michael Chavez taking over the Conjuring franchise from James Wan. What's the best franchise director change? For me, personally, 100% gonna say Taika Waititi for Thor. Thor Ragnarok was leaps and bounds better than Thor the Dark World, and definitely stronger than Thor. Thor has its moments, and Kenneth Branagh does a great job with it, but Ragnarok sees Thor so fully realized in this new way that it's worked so well, and I love the character. And seeing that Thor go into Infinity War and Endgame made me so happy. And I can't wait to see Thor Love and Thunder, because Taika Waititi brings all of his great sensibilities. Yes, I feel like the seriousness could have dug a little deeper. They do undercut a lot of the emotional scenes in the film with humor. Maybe that won't be as prevalent in this one, Thor Love and Thunder, but I still love what he did in revitalizing probably the most boring Avenger, except for maybe Hawkeye. But I love Thor now. He's honestly my favorite one left. So there you go. My other question is an animated film that deserves a sequel. And I had to think real long and hard about this. And this is extremely biased of me. But I really, really want to see more Shrek. And hopefully, like, I think Shrek Forever After is solid. It's fine. Shrek the Third, really a miss. But bring back Shrek. Come on. Don't reboot it. I think they are. But don't reboot it. I want to see Shrek 5. I want Mike Myers, Eddie Murphy, Cameron Diaz. I want to see more Shrek. And that's how I feel about it. So take it or leave it. I had some great responses to this question on Instagram too with Spirited Away, which was interesting. Zootopia. I think Zootopia has so much to build off of. I would even like to see Moana and see like a new adventure of her as queen, or, you know, or do more original things, you know. Make those choices. But I definitely would love to see more Shrek. I love Shrek so much. And now my recommendation that I'm going to be doing each week now, and one thing I wanted to really put a spotlight on is a 52-minute film, The Amusement Park, from George A. Romero. And this is just being released because it was shelved and never released back in the 70s, and this focuses on an old man seeing a broken down version of himself in a white room, and he opens the door. He's like, I have to go into life, and he plops into an amusement park and deals with elder abuse and ageism in both physical and emotional ways. And this is such an impactful and poignant and well versed and full circled kind of narrative that feels straight out of some of the best Twilight Zones. And George A. Romero does a great job of capturing this in this film, and I'm so glad that I got a chance to screen this, because this is going to be coming to Shudder, though, on the 8th. By the time this episode drops, it'll be there. So go check it out on Shudder. But this is something special. It's a film out of time. And with the short time and the one lead and the structured narrative that we have in this film, it's so poignant and powerful and hits so well. And I definitely really recommend you go check out The Amusement Park. It is a wonderful and intriguing experience. But that's all I have for all of you this week. We did Coming Attractions. We did our Movie of the Week, our feature, Ballad of Buster Scruggs. We did some question and answer and my recommendation to leave you with. So go check out The Amusement Park on Shudder. And tune in next week as I begin my experience through the world of Stanley Kubrick. If you want to join the show and talk about Fear and Desires, please let me know. Comment below. Message me on Instagram. Or if you want to send in a question that be answered on next week's episode, put that in the comments or message me on Instagram as well. But thank all of you for always tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.